Hello and welcome to the Irked podcast. You're listening to Michael.
And Zak.
And first off, we have to say sorry, we missed a week due to some technical difficulties. Basically, we started to record and then my PC decided to not only stop recording, but also delete what we had previously done.
It was pretty annoying.
So we fixed it and we're back. And this week we're talking about, I don't want to say first jobs, or just kind of old jobs, basically.
I feel like first jobs maybe is a little bit...
It's a little bit limiting, because I only had my first job for like 3 months. Not a lot happened.
You could literally tell us about every day.
Yeah.
Technically,
Yeah.
you could make it last 3 months.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly.
Possibly. How's your memory?
But it's basically 3 months in an office, but then something glorious happened, and I got a job at a fast food place.
You're allowed to say it though, aren't you?
I don't know, because what if I say something
not?
that negatively impacts it? So I don't know.
It's pretty big. I don't think it's going to stop like billions of people eating there.
I mean, I don't think it's going to stop anybody eating there, but I just don't want to put.
It might actually encourage people.
Okay.
Also, can I mention there were also health issues with both of us.
Yeah.
So give us a break, all right? Stop leaving comments saying, "Post another podcast."
Oh, you missed a week. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I started working at McDonald's at the tender age of 17.
Oh,
Or was I 16? I was probably just about to turn 17.
little Michael.
And it was, without a doubt, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
You have told me one or two little stories.
I've told you a couple of things. Let's find out, what was your first job, proper job, though?
You can have a pick of two. I had one job while I was at college, which was working for a lawn treatment company, which is actually a lot more exciting than it. I worked with a lawn treatment company, and also then my first maybe full-time job was working in an office in sales.
Right. Okay.
So pick one. I mean, what?
Well, I mean, I'm going with McDonald's being my first job because it was my first full-time job. It was my first full-time job. Like, okay. There's no getting away from it. I'm gonna have to alter the mic. Sorry, interference people. There we go.
Interference people. Who
interference.
Are they?
Yeah, the interference people. They're people who are so troubled by interference you have to mention them. And
okay.
Quite quickly, ridiculous things would happen, but they didn't seem as ridiculous at the time.
Okay.
Like, you know, just the sort of things I would have to do on a daily basis, and that just weird things that were just part of my day-to-day job.
The things you had to do.
The things I had to do as part of my job.
Right.
Like, just thinking back now, the amount of trays I cleaned.
Yeah.
I could spend a whole day just cleaning trays.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
What were the trays used for then?
Like, you know, that you take your tray of food over to your table.
Oh, those trays. Yeah.
I could literally...
I thought you meant like baking trays or something.
No, I actually don't use any really.
Yeah.
That would be like my whole day some days. Would be really busy, and there'd be other people cleaning tables and just bringing me trays. And
That's
so I'd just
boring.
I'd spend my whole day cleaning trays.
Did you not rotate jobs?
Sometimes.
Oh.
But generally it was everyone complained until I just did the job no one else wanted to. We actually settled. I mean, I got locked in the freezer for about 20 minutes.
Are you the butler from Tomb Raider 2 on PS1?
That is a reference I do not get.
What?
Sorry.
Well, this isn't about video games. We'll discuss that another time. If you do know what I'm talking about, rib Michael in the comments. Thank you.
Okay, alright, yeah, please do.
Mm-hmm.
No, the freezer was this big walk-in freezer.
Yes, yep.
Inside a fridge.
Oh, okay.
So you went through the fridge to get to the freezer.
Yeah.
And they had these big, massive locked doors. And they always had this thing like, make sure you close these doors because it wastes energy. And if you leave the freezer door open, everything in the fridge will freeze.
Right, yeah.
Which is really, really inconvenient when it happened.
Yeah.
So when you went in there, the idea was to check the freezer and then close the door.
Okay.
I was getting something out of the freezer and someone closed it with me still in there. Now, this...
The image in my head.
I was getting a box of fries out and someone came and slammed the door and I was just like...
Are you sure they didn't know you were in there?
They didn't know I was in there. They didn't.
Was there a little window in the door?
No, there wasn't. What there should have been is this big green button that glows in the dark.
Yeah.
And you just punch the button and the door opens.
Yes, yeah.
However, this being McDonald's, it had fallen off.
Flipping heck.
So I was in there in a practically soundproof freezer. That's at like -10 or something. And I just kind of sat on my box of fries after shouting for a few minutes and nobody hearing me.
How long were you in there?
I was in there for like 20 minutes. And then someone came and opened the freezer. We're like, oh, I wondered if you'd be in here.
Why would you wonder if I was in the freezer?
And they were like, everyone's been looking for you. They're like, where's Michael gone? And we're like, someone came and shut me in the freezer.
How can they not know? Surely you would check if you were going to shut a big old walk-in
Someone just
freezer
came
door.
and kicked the door and off they went because people used to leave the freezer door open all the time.
Oh right.
And so it was quite annoying when you'd go in there and find it open.
So if you saw it open, you'd just be like, and just shut it.
Well, most people would. I would always check, but
naturally, in case
also,
anyone gets shut in the freezer or something.
Made it even worse was the door. The lights in the freezer would only come on when the door was open. So as soon as they closed it, the lights went off, and I was in pitch darkness.
Pitch black and no heat.
Pitch black, -10.
Were you ill?
No, I wasn't.
Really?
It was actually it was in the middle of summer. It was really hot, so I went out there and I was burning alive. And people were coming up to me and hugging me to cool down because I was like a human icicle. It took me all day to warm up again.
Oh, Dave, you're getting a bit overheated over there? Yeah. Yes, mate, yes. All right, Michael, just go over here, Zach.
Yeah, literally, they could have just used me as air conditioning. Just put a fan behind me.
Oh, yeah, science.
It's just, and stuff like that wasn't uncommon. Not many things like that happened to me.
Oh, I want to work there now.
But there were so many people who stuff like that had happened to. One guy got covered from head to toe in milkshake mix. Ice cold milkshake mix.
Ooh.
So you would pour the mix in the top of the machine and it gets dispensed out of this middle compartment bit.
Yeah,
and,
technical term.
Yeah. And it had gotten too cold at one point. So when we pressed it, it made this tung 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 noise. And we turned it off quite quickly. And we were like, oh no, we're going to need to get someone to fix this because the mechanism is jammed and this thing's going to blow if too much pressure gets built up. And then this chap came along and was like, no, I can fix that. Don't worry about that. And we're like, don't turn it on. Please don't turn it on. And he walked around the corner. We heard the button get pressed. And he heard this, tung, 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 thunk.
Is that THOOK?
That's THUNK, thunk.
Thunk.
And then he walked around the corner with kind of his arms out, and from his head to waist, he had milkshake all over him. It was like in a movie when someone gets hit in the face with a pie. Yeah. He just had two holes where his eyes were.
Oh man, it sounds like such a fun place to work.
That was hilarious.
For all the wrong reasons.
He was this big Romanian guy called Marian, and he was like,
oh my goodness.
He was like, oh, I can fix this.
A man called Marian.
He was like, oh, I can fix this. Don't worry.
I fixed this.
And came round and we didn't even have a spare shirt to give him. He had to go home.
He had to go home covered in the stuff.
No,
my goodness.
We hosed him off.
With what?
We hosed him off at the back sink. There was this big tap that overhung the whole thing.
Oh, yeah,
it was a nozzle. You pull it down and it sprays.
Yeah.
And he literally he stood by the drain. We hosed it off of him.
Were you laughing while you were doing this?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't even the one hosing him off. I was just stood there laughing my ass off.
On the floor, just like.
Oh.
You're crying as you relive the story.
It was so funny, and it was just a ridiculous place to work because I was 17, didn't really care very much, and it was just a place that gave me money, and I had to make burgers, and that was just kind of it. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, well, your first job was so much more exciting than mine. Either one.
Oh, man.
I wish for you to tell me more stories.
But I mean, it's because it was a McDonald's, so nobody's really expecting very high standards to begin with. It was full of young people there.
We love you, McDonald's.
Because it was all the students would come and work there.
Right.
You know, just get paid minimum wage to do whatever, and they would work out of term hours, so that worked quite well for them. But yeah, it's just really odd things. I mean, what surprised me working there, I guess bring it back to things that irk me, was the customers that would get so angry so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I had someone try and pull me through the window.
Oh.
Because someone had spilt a milkshake on their car.
Flipping egg.
Yeah.
But you didn't spill the milkshake.
I didn't. No.
Was it at the same window?
Yeah, it was at the same window, and this girl was handing the food out the window. What do we call it? We had a set name for every job. That one was called presenting. She was presenting, handing the food out the window.
Yeah.
And she saw that her neighbour, who she'd had a disagreement with, was driving up. And so when she went to hand her the milkshake, instead, she just kind of accidentally threw it over the bonnet of this woman's car.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't see this happen, but what this girl did was ran behind me, pushed me forwards. I was kind of half turned round looking at her, being like, why are you pushing me? And this very angry woman reached a hand through the window and grabbed my shirt.
Flipping heck.
And tried to pull me through the window.
Wow.
I braced against the window, stopping myself falling through. And like 3 managers came out straight away and were like trying to get this woman off of me.
Oh man.
It was hilarious.
That's the most exciting thing I think I've ever heard. I was like tensing up there.
Well, there was that woman. She got so angry. There's another guy who, even worse. He came through and he ordered a porridge in the morning.
Yeah, huh?
Porridge takes 3 minutes to cook.
Okay.
So 9 times out of 10, if you order a porridge at McDonald's, they're going to ask you to park up in the drive-thru.
Right.
They're going to ask you to park up and wait. I asked him to park up and wait, and he got out of his car and threatened to kill me.
No, well, naturally, yeah.
Give
him man his porridge.
His mum was driving the car. He was in the passenger seat, and she was fine. I was like, oh, yeah, we'll bring it out to you in a minute. Just that's going to take like 3 minutes to cook. We'll bring it out as soon as it's ready. And she was like, yeah, fine. And this guy was like, no, that's not fine. Got out of his car and he was like, oh, I'm going to kill you. And then he came into the store and tried to get through the kitchen.
What?
Yeah. A couple of people stopped him and were just like, Michael, go to the back, because clearly you
get
being...
in the freezer
Yeah,
where
get
you
in the
belong.
freezer. Clearly you being here is riling him up a bit. But yeah, it was insane. And so if any of you out there are people who get that angry that quickly at fast food employees, you need to get help.
Professional help.
Like professional help.
Not just from a friend, they're probably angry too. Birds of a feather flock together and all that.
Oh man.
He actually said he was going to kill you and then tried to make his way into the kitchen.
Yeah, he was trying. He was
I feel like that's a tad excessive.
I'm going to smash your face in. I'm going to do it. You know, the thing that really gets me though, that just shows how ridiculous a place it was we still gave him his porridge. We still served him.
That actually is really good customer service. That's pretty impressive. If I threatened to kill someone because they brought my steak out like well done instead of medium rare, I think I would expect to be ushered out of the restaurant quite swiftly.
If you don't sort this out, I will kill you.
I will actually kill you. Oh yes, sir. We'll get it right out to you. Expect it to be spat on though.
Yeah.
Did you spit in this porridge?
No,
Please?
no.
What?
There was one guy though, absolute legend. This manager. If anyone was giving you trouble, he'd come out and he'd be like, "Do you guys really want to mess with the people that are cooking your food?"
Yeah.
And they'd always stand there and be like, no.
No, I just meant, no.
Yeah, exactly, literally, just like that. And then if he saw them come in again, he would always wave to them from the kitchen. He'd just put his head round the corner and just be like, oh, hi, guys. And they would always be really friendly.
Hey, nice to Like that.
Yeah,
Just like that.
It'd just be like they go from being a bit grumpy to like, oh yes, can I please? Yes, please. I'd like if it's okay, please. And you're just like, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, brilliant.
I never knew of anyone actually spitting on the food though.
No.
To be fair, that one I worked at was surprisingly clean.
Mm.
Like as far as McDonald's go, I worked in 4 separate ones overall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I worked
Wow.
at the main one, and that closed for a couple of months to get refurbished. And so during that couple of months, I worked at 2 or 3 others.
Okay.
It's like one's in a city, one in another city, and we've just kind of commuted out there.
Okay. Did you work in the one near the market in that particular city?
What, in Cambridge?
Yeah, that particular Cambridge. Fine.
I'm gonna
I didn't
say
think we were
Cambridge.
going to say it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I worked at the one in the market square. I only worked there for a couple of days, and the second
I
day...
like that one, but someone got stabbed there.
The second day I walked out and never went back.
Oh.
I refused to go back.
Well, because it was like dodgy at night.
Because I didn't work there at night. Thank goodness.
Oh. Yeah, it was. Someone did get stabbed there.
Someone got stabbed there, yeah.
Was it? It wasn't a staff member though, was it?
No.
But still, I mean, in Cambridge.
That was one.
I didn't think anyone carried a knife in Cambridge.
One McDonald's eater stabbing another.
Wow, they're animals.
I went there and
All
it was so disorganized and so filthy that I hated working there.
Yeah.
And they raved about their best employee was like our mediocre employees.
Oh.
And they raved about them.
Was there any kind of like tension between different like particular restaurants? Particularly, was there?
Honestly,
Like
it was
turf
like
wars.
it was like
West
supporting.
Side Story, fast food style.
It was really like supporting different football teams.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like one of the day I walked out and didn't go back, I was the only person from my store there. And they thought that we were like really like we thought we were above them or something.
Right.
Because our store had all the best numbers and we were company owned, whereas they were franchised
Yeah.
and didn't sell as well as we did.
Probably because it was filthy.
And well, they didn't have a drive-through.
Oh.
And like drive-through was like 70% of our business.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, man.
Isn't it?
We had the record for amount of drive-through cars served in an hour in the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I was on till that day. I was like, yes.
Legend. So you personally hold the record for most number of vehicles served in drive-through.
Well, on the till, well, that was,
In a
I
day.
mean, that would have been like 5 years ago, so I don't know if that's still the case.
Yeah, let's say it's still the case.
Yeah, say it.
Sure. Wow, you're a record holder. Nice one.
The most lame record ever. But yeah, so it was like having different football teams. I went and worked at one in Huntingdon, and
Yeah.
they hated us there. They really hated us. And then they came to work at our store, and we were really nice to them, but they still hated us.
Did they hate you because you were nice to them?
I don't know. I don't know. There was this manager,
nice about
and he tried to he actually tried to sabotage us one day.
What?
He put us on. He took all of us who were not kitchen staff and put us running the kitchen.
Wow, that's a bad idea.
Turns out after half an hour we learnt what we were doing. We actually caned it.
Really?
We did really well.
Wow.
Yeah. That was I had never actually.
So he tried to turn the place upside down.
He tried to like mess up the shift because
Yeah.
he was really annoyed. Managers were always trying to
Beat your numbers.
run the shift with as few people as possible,
Right.
because then they had the most money coming in and the least money going out,
Yeah.
and that made them look really good on their reports. We came along and there were like 5-6 of us, and we're like, we're working with you today, and he was trying to send his own staff home, so to then suddenly have 6 people that he's got to pay for the next 8 hours,
Yeah.
he was really annoyed. So he put us in kitchen trying to make it like really bad and slow down, so he could then say, oh no, you guys go home and we'll have my guys back in. But we
Wow.
absolutely nailed it. And
That's
yeah,
brilliant.
that was pretty satisfying actually.
Oh man, you have some good stories from McDonald's.
To be fair, it's kind of like 10% brilliant stories, 20% awful stories, and 70% utter boredom.
Oh, really?
So like I can fill probably a podcast's worth of the interesting stuff,
Yeah.
but most of my days was just like clearing up rubbish and serving people on a drive-through and being mind-numbingly bored and miserable.
Were you like, when you monitored individually within the one restaurant, were you monitored on how well you did?
Yeah.
Like, was there like a competition among all the staff there?
There was a competition about record holding and having a certain status on certain stations, because you always wanted to be on one of the good stations. Like you didn't want to be on fries, because fries was awful.
Okay.
You wanted to be on drinks.
Right.
Or on ice creams.
Why
and
is that?
stuff like that, because they were the fun stations.
Okay.
They were the good ones. Like if,
well, that makes sense.
if I was on fizzy drinks, I'd be making all the fizzy drinks for the whole store, and you wouldn't have to speak to any customers. Basically, you didn't want anything where all you were doing was cooking in front of the heat.
No.
And you didn't want anything customer facing.
No, because
then you had the customers that threatened to kill you if you spill a milkshake.
Yeah.
You wanted something like making fizzy drinks all day, because it's fast paced, so time goes by, and at the same time you're just having a right laugh with whoever you're working with.
Sorry, I just stroked your foot.
That's okay.
I'll continue.
No, please don't.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So drinks was like, but yeah, okay. So there wasn't like a kind of, oh, this staff member has exceeded himself this month.
Yeah, I mean,
and then other people are like, oh, I hate that guy.
They had no, there was never really that. They did try and do an employee of the month, which they were always about 3 months behind, and then it'd catch up, and we'd have 4 employees of the month that month, and then do that. They did do employee of the quarter, because I always wanted employee of the month. I really tried to get it for about a year, and I never got it. And then they gave me employee of the quarter, and I was like, awesome. Yeah, that's like 3 times better.
Yeah.
The employee of the month got like 2 cinema tickets, and they got this little box, and it came with like freebies and stuff in. I thought, this is awesome. Yeah. Employee of the quarter gets absolutely nothing.
What?
Yeah.
But you've excelled against everyone else for 3 months solid.
If you get employee of the quarter, you then get put against the other employees of the quarter from 5 other restaurants.
Oh, wow.
And if you win something out of them, you then start to get like prizes and rewards.
Well, you should just get that anyway.
But I got recommended as our store's employee of the quarter, but I didn't beat anyone else's. I came like last, so I didn't get anything.
That's ridiculous. And you worked so hard, presumably.
Well,
when you weren't sitting in the freezer.
When I wasn't just sitting in the freezer or stuck in a lady's bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, or getting pulled out of the window.
Trying to get pulled out of the window, or being spat on.
You crazy kid.
Yeah.
I was going to say, have you ever worked in tele? Is it telesales? What you do now?
No, I don't sell anything.
Have you ever done telesales?
I haven't. No, I haven't done any telesales. No.
Oh, it's a grind.
Because you have.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I can't imagine that's enjoyable.
No, there are varying degrees of how soul destroying it is.
Yeah.
Like, one job which I was really good at because it was easy, it was honest work, and you would call up companies. All you would be doing is just finding out from them when their like energy contract dates were due for renewal. They would tell you. You would pass the info on to the next like team up. And they would then like generate quotes that when it was up for renewal, and you put a point up on the board. So there was this board where everyone would compete and get the most points. Right. So I was getting like quite a lot, and it was like normally, at least at first, way above other ones. That's in honest work.
Yeah.
So that's like not too soul destroying, but it's pretty repetitive.
Yeah,
and you kind of cure your boredom by chatting to the person next to you and accumulating a number of office wives. No, I'm not going to go into that. But like the other end of the scale, I worked for a magazine company, and I loved the people I worked with, but the work itself, you would call up a company on, say, the other side of the planet, or from a few hours away, and you give them their greeting in whatever their language is. So it's quite interesting. You learn different languages and different cultures, different business industries. I learned a lot doing it, but the premise of the work is that the company you work for writes an article for that company.
Okay.
And then you ask for a list of their suppliers. They give you a list of their suppliers, and then someone else in the company, or yourself, depending on how the company is structured, would then call that list of suppliers to sell advertising to put alongside the article of their customer.
Right.
So you've got an article, you've got advertisement, and you're making calls for all of these. What is difficult is trying to convince those companies that you're actually worth being a part of. Because obviously a company like that, a small magazine, is very difficult to build a strong subscriber base, because you've got a lot of other much bigger magazines that you'd be fighting against in the industry. So it would become not just even a habit among some, but more like it's just what you do, where you would exaggerate or completely lie about the numbers to do with the magazine. So
we have 10 million issues sold every single week.
Precisely,
when you've got like 10.
Yeah, you'd be like, yeah, we have 3 million subscribers in Africa, sir. And he'd be like, oh, really? He'd be like, yeah, 3 million subscribers, and 1.5 million are actually in Kenya, where you live. And he's like, oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, I can, be a part of this magazine. Loads of people are going to see it. It's going to help my business. But in fact, some of the biggest magazines don't even have 1 million subscribers, let alone the millions that we're talking about. But that's what was expected. And I hated that.
Yeah.
But I didn't use figures like that when I realised that it wasn't true, because I didn't feel comfortable with it. But then when you don't use figures like that, you don't
get the sales.
You don't get the sales.
And then you lose, your name
so
goes down on the points list.
Either be dishonest and be good at your job, good being a loose term, or be honest and feel good about the work that you're doing when it is successful, but still you're not making as much as the other guys there.
No.
So it's flipping tough, man. I
can imagine. I mean, I always feel really bad when salesmen call me.
Do you?
Because I feel bad because
I guess
I know they have to carry on. So the conclusion I've arrived at is I know they have to carry on for as long as I'm speaking to them. Like, they will never ever say, oh, okay, thank you, bye-bye, and hang up. So I literally just have to tell them no and put the phone down.
Yeah.
And then I feel really rude. So I'm like, this is just a dude who's got a job.
Yeah.
It's not him.
But you know what I hate? Is when you get calls saying, oh, this is just regarding the accident you had 2 years ago. That makes me want to reach down the phone. Cartoon style, stick my hand out at the other end of the phone, just grab my neck. Like, I drove in an accident 2 years ago. I've never been in a car accident. And then you reach your hand back through the phone, and you're satisfied. They never call you again. I wish that were true.
It's an interesting thing I saw actually about these kind of scams that people get involved in.
Yeah.
And they deliberately make them ridiculous, and it's quite clever, because the more ridiculous you make a scam, you guarantee that it's only the most vulnerable people or the most gullible people that are actually going to fall for it.
Yeah.
So
it's normally elderly people that are targeted, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just horrible.
Yes, that's awful.
Well, as a human being, why? That irks me. As a human being, why would you do something like that?
But I mean, it's not just, and then it calls into question. Obviously, there's the people that work for these companies, and it's the company's thing, and all they're doing is literally their job. Yeah. But it's still, it's despicable.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is actually legal as well, which is another whole nother thing.
Sales, I don't mind as much. What annoys me is when people will call up a company to complain, and they complain at the person that answers the phone, but that person that has answered the phone has no idea who this customer is. They've never spoken to him before in their life, but for some reason they're getting shouted at.
Yeah.
Because they work for this company. I'm sorry, Mr. Give me a name, Mr. Pennyworth.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Alfred.
Yeah.
Pennyworth. you know, I have never spoken to you before. Why are you shouting at me? Like, let's just sort this out, shall we?
Yeah, well, that's... I deal with quite a few customers now, and to be fair, most of them, if they do have a complaint, will say, I know it's not you, but I'm just angry.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that I totally get.
Yeah.
That I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. At McDonald's, you are then the face of McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because the person complaining, they are only dealing with you. And all of a sudden, you encompass all McDonald's and McDonald's related complaints.
Yeah, that's a heavy burden.
Well, to be fair, it was just 90% shouting and 10% throwing food. So... I had milkshakes thrown over me.
Did you really?
Yeah, bags of food.
What?
I got hit in the head with a burger once. That was
That's
not
inventive.
fun. I got
Was it a good shot?
It was a good shot, actually. I was quite far away when he got me.
What kind of burger was it?
It was a cheeseburger. A half-eaten
cheese in your
cheeseburger.
hair?
A half-eaten cheeseburger.
You get cheese in your hair.
I didn't get cheese in my
Get
hair.
a
I
little
had
gherkin
to wear a hat.
You get a little gherkin on the shoulder.
Luckily, the burger went on the hat and not the hair.
Oh man, that's horrible.
I got spat on as well.
Man, you just work there, man.
Yeah, literally. And then when you're working there, it's literally like, because those were like the 20% awful things that happened.
Yeah.
And they'd just be like, this is the worst day. Some days they were just so bad.
Really.
And that's what I feel so bad for people that work there now in really bad conditions, because I know when they can be run well and the days you can have which are fantastic, but I can kind of tell when if I go to one now and they're having a bad day, I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, I do not miss this.
No, yeah. Does it make you feel sorry for the people that work in the ones that are like that though? Like
it really does. Like
they must get so many customers during the day that complain at them.
See, the one I worked at in Norwich was really odd in that it was very... Everybody was being... No one was commended, ever.
Really?
Everyone was always being...
Accommodation is the key.
They were just being put down constantly. But they had this whole atmosphere of they are the best McDonald's in Norwich by far.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah.
But that's what they all thought of that store.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is the best one. We are the best. No one comes close to this. Yet all the time, unless you were best friends with the boss, you were just being put down all the time.
Yeah, I've had managers like that. It's not the best.
It was to a ridiculous extent.
Yeah.
And so I worked for 3 years at the one in Cambridge, and the one here in Norwich I worked at for about 5 months.
Okay.
And the amount of awful days I had in the 5 months here was more than double the 3 years at the one in Cambridge.
Really?
It was terrible. It was so bad.
Do you think that people in Cambridge generally are more like civil than they are here in Norwich?
It was just a better store. I don't think the
Better
people...
run?
It was better run. It was better upkept. The one in Norwich was small. There was never any stock. It was franchised, so it wasn't as well maintained or regulated. And the bosses were just worse.
Mm.
So the franchisee, who would own like 3 or 4 of them, would just kind of get the bosses he liked. And all the franchisee was worried about was how much money was going in his pocket at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas the company-owned ones, their money's going straight to Mackey's, so they're not worried overly about that sort of thing. They're worried about the performance. And because they're just like a token store for McDonald's. Like, because they want to get to about having only 20% of stores company-owned, and I think they're probably at that in the UK right now. And they're just like McDonald's way of saying, look, this is McDonald's, and we can put this image out, and we can share these statistics from... They can say, oh, like 100 stores across the UK, and they'll share the statistics of the 100 best stores, which are their company-owned ones. The franchise is brilliant for them, because all they do is they're like, right, here's a McDonald's, you run it. We give you some regulations, but other than that, do whatever you like.
Yeah.
And then the franchisee wants to run it as cheaply as possible,
Yeah.
which results in these awful places to work.
Right, yeah.
So
I've been berated many times as as an employee.
It sucks, man.
When I worked in retail.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm stroking your foot again. I'm sorry.
We need a bigger table.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So, yeah, when I was working in retail, literally everything I would do, it was never good enough.
Yeah.
And I was always trying my best. And the fact is that you're in retail, often you're overworked and underpaid, and you're stretched out beyond what you can reasonably do.
Yeah.
I was trying to run a department. I was also trying to work on tills and also trying to like do stuff in the warehouse. I was trying to do all this stuff in a day, and you can never get anything done.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, you'd get moaned at because your stuff wasn't done. And you're like, yeah, but
you gave
get
me the
more
work
staff.
of 3 people.
Yeah, get more staff, and then maybe I'll get done what I need to get done. But that's okay. I got him fired anyway. I actually wasn't the whistleblower, which I regret. But when someone came to me and said, "Hey, did this happen?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that happened."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are they gonna let him go? Because that would make my life easier. He like treats me like not very nice." And they were like, well, I don't know, and it kind of seemed like they weren't gonna let him go. And I was just like, wow, he is gonna make my life hell.
Yeah.
If he knows that I've said yes, this is what he did, and yet they keep him on. But they did let him go.
They did let him go.
Yeah.
That worked out in the end then.
I don't think it was just a case of he wasn't necessarily a people person. It was just like, there's a certain way that you should treat people, especially if they're if they're under you, like your employees or your children,
Was it a young guy?
Not, well, he wasn't young, wasn't old.
Okay.
He was, it was, it's just, as an employee, you don't want that.
No. There was this whole, the managers that this wasn't the case for all of them by any means, but the managers that really annoyed me, you'd get these teenagers, because there are a few types of people that work at McDonald's. There was like people who just want it there as a stopgap, so they're there while they work there while at uni or college. They're working there just while they find something else, and then there's people who are there for life,
right?
And they
get their whole lives.
They just get into a rut and they stay there. And then there's other people who are perfectly happy there. They just get a job at McDonald's and they're a manager, and that does what they want it to. Do
you know the kind of person, like if a newbie starts, do you think, oh, this guy, he's going to try and climb the ranks, it's good,
I think after a couple of months you can probably tell a lifer. And
then, the lifer, they come in and you're like, oh no, I feel so sorry for them.
Well, they
will go nowhere else.
There were these teenagers and they would come in and they'd work their way up to manager within like 18 months.
Right.
And then most of them, or the ones in Cambridge that did that, they'd all be like fine, and they'd still be pretty much the same as they were beforehand. A couple of them went a bit funny. Would be like, oh, I'm your boss now, sort of thing. Most of them weren't. Yeah. But then the ones in Norwich that did the same thing, they would be like really power hungry.
Entitled, even.
Really entitled. And they'd think that all of a sudden, they would think they were so much better than you. Yeah, and they would treat you like absolute scum.
Yeah.
Because they were a manager and you weren't.
Yeah.
And so it was incredible, because you'd be like, you're like a year younger than me, and you're treating me awfully, and you expect me to take all of this because you're a manager.
Yeah. Yeah. There's respect for authority, but then you have to be reasonable with the people that you work with.
But
just people in general.
I had never had a problem with a manager at my old store ever, and then I had a problem the first week in my new one. Actually, I did get in trouble once in my old store for eating chocolate out of the freezer.
Why did you spend all your time in the freezer?
That was the fridge. When I used to get stock out of the fridge, there were these chocolate bars that they used to, like the flakes used to put in ice creams.
Oh, yeah.
And there was just like a tub of them in the fridge. So when used to go get stock, I just like have a couple of flakes. And like,
Oh, naughty, naughty, naughty!
he caught me
Was
one
that for
time
the
when I was
12
coming back.
McFlurry?
No, that's all. Like you can get ice cream cones from there, and they have a flake in.
Do they? What? Do they still do that?
Yeah, they do it all the time.
What?
Yeah,
What?
I didn't know that before I worked there.
What?
I was really
They
surprised.
do what 99 ice creams in an ice
Yeah.
cream cone at
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Do they?
They absolutely do. Yeah, they're
For
cheaper
how
than
long?
the McFlurries as well.
What?
They did that the entire time I worked that. They
Wow.
still do that now.
I feel like this is a great sort of advertisement for McDonald's.
I'm pretty good at making ice creams now as well, because the amount I had to make during the summertime was insane. So it's literally it's just the same machine as the McFlurry machine, and you just make an ice cream with it, and off you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
I have to get that done.
I think there used to be like a quid to get it with the flake and everything. So
Probably more though now.
they were always cheaper than the McFlurries, and McFlurries used to be 99p.
Mm.
That's another thing. Company stores are always cheaper than franchise stores.
Are they really?
Yeah, so that's why. Have you ever gone to a McDonald's and it's worked out either surprisingly cheap or surprisingly expensive for what you've
I
got?
think so, but I'm finding it hard to differentiate which ones were which.
Well, sometimes, I mean, like in the company ones, you could get the largest meal they did there would be like $6.50, and that'd be the special meal. It's large. It's got the most expensive drink, everything,
Yeah.
and then that would be like the same price as just your average Big Mac meal somewhere else.
Right.
Because the
okay.
franchises would have like a range they're allowed to charge,
Uh,
and most of them would charge the most expensive.
right. Okay. I was just knocking the mic cable there. I need to go for a toilet break. I know this is a first during the Irked podcast, but I actually have to go for a toilet break. So we have two options. Either we can pause it, or you can keep talking while I pee.
I think I'm going to pause it because I don't want to keep talking just myself. I don't know what else to say to fill that time.
No.
So before he bursts,
Yeah.
we will pause. You won't actually feel a pause at all. Hear a pause at all, I should say,
Yeah.
when you're listening to this, because it's just going to be done with now.
Yeah.
And we're back. See, told you wouldn't notice anything.
Yes.
Oh,
Do you want to know how it went?
No, not at all.
Well, I feel like we're as close friends now, but I can give you a few details.
I don't care how close friends we are. I don't want to know about anything you do in there.
After the podcast.
Not even then.
I thought you'd be okay with that.
I am not remotely okay with that.
All right, back to the podcast. Jobs. Employment. I mean,
Employment.
now the word employment will never sound the same.
Oh, I just
Okay.
wish.
Okay.
I wish I could go back to being 17 right now
Yeah.
and just spend a day working there.
Oh, just a day. And then come back
It would be hilarious. Honestly,
Yeah,
if the same
with
people
what you know now,
with what I know now.
with no accountability.
Oh my word, I would
Oh.
have so much fun.
You could pull the customers through the drive-through window.
I could do anything.
Anything.
I could take the one key they had for the disabled toilets, throw it in the disabled loo, and then lock it from the outside.
Why would you do that?
Because then they'd be scrambling to find one. That would be hilarious.
What, the disabled customers?
Oh, there weren't any really disabled customers that ever used it, to be fair.
Oh, really?
No, not once did I actually ever have to open it for a disabled person.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
It would just be like, can you open it because the other toilet's broken?
Would you also then shut someone else in the freezer?
Yeah.
If
Ask someone
you
to
had
get
to
some-
pick one.
If I had to pick one, James.
Flipping James.
It would have been James.
Yeah, of
Fry-
course it would.
Not you, nice James.
Nah, the other one.
If by some miracle you listen to this one day, not you.
Is he our one listener?
I'm talking about Fries James.
Fries James. Oh.
Fries James was a necessary evil in that
Okay.
he's a complete nutter, but he would only work on fries.
Right.
Now there were
Well, because he wanted to.
there were good points and bad points to this. On the one hand, it meant that no one else ever had to do fries when he was there.
Yay.
On the other, he wasn't very good at fries.
Boo. Oh, man.
So if there was one thing we were running out of, it would have been fries.
That definitely sounds freezer worthy to me.
Mm.
Have you had jobs in the way of physical jobs?
No, not really. I mean,
Really?
I did a lot of running about in that job.
Oh, well,
I
yeah,
never had to
suppose.
like lift anything or that much, but I was constantly rushing the entire day.
Yeah.
Unless I was stuck up in the window taking payment where I literally didn't move.
Stuck up in the window.
Yeah. You're like,
Taking
ugh,
payment.
can I take your order? I guess.
That's the funniest thing
I didn't expect that to set him off.
Can I take your order? I guess. Oh, yes, you can. That's hilarious.
I used to say that. I used to say, "Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order?" I used to say that so often that one time the landline of phone at my house rang, and I answered it with that.
What did they say? Did they make an order?
Luckily, it was like a telesalesperson that I hung up on.
Oh. Were they like, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to bring him.
We didn't really mean to call
I often
McDonald's.
answer my phone with, hello, Norfolk Police.
Do you actually?
Yeah. If it's someone I know, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, surely it's as if someone you don't know, that's when it's funny. Someone you know
When it's
knows
funny-
that's your sense of humour and would just be like, oh, yeah, whatever.
It's funny when my takeaway, who I've developed quite a close relationship with over the years, when they... No, wait, when would they ever call me? I call them, and one of us pretends to be Norfolk Police. So sometimes I'll call them, and they'll be like, hello, police station. And I'll be like, haha, I know it's you. Can I have a Zak special pizza, please? Which is a meat feast with doner meat on it.
Oh,
What?
really? Doner meat?
Well, yeah, but you know, in the pizza oven, it'd like crisp up, and it'd be. It's all right. It's good. Yeah, it's not like sloppy. Or
I've not
anything.
had doner meat on a pizza, though.
Yeah, well, I've had it for like so many times that I don't know. Is this going off track?
Slightly, but I don't really care.
Technically, working in a takeaway is employment, but I never worked in a takeaway.
No.
They do though, so that's
See,
okay. But yeah, and then you know, I
I
would call them and pretend to be Norfolk Police as well. It was a hoot. It was great.
You know what? There are these videos on YouTube made by this YouTube channel is called The Odd Ones Out, and he does
I
these
already love it.
cartoons, and he's brilliant. And he talks about working at Subway when he
Okay.
was at college, and he says this thing, and I couldn't agree more. He thinks every young person should like work at a fast food place or retail place for 6 months,
Yeah.
just long enough to kind of get a taste for it, because you suddenly have such a new understanding of how those places work
Yeah, and a hatred for people in general.
and what goes on there,
Yeah.
that now I am so nice to fast food employees.
Yeah.
Honestly, I cannot
Yeah,
do enough
yeah.
for if they're horrible to me, then I will be the worst customer they've ever seen,
But that's unlikely, isn't
because I know how exactly what to do to really annoy them in a very passive aggressive way. But if they're nice to me, I
no,
can't
I
do
said
enough
2
for
straws.
them. Literally.
Yeah.
I used to do something very passive aggressive when
Oh,
I
and
was
some
working on a
ketchup?
drive-through.
Oh, but 2 ketchups.
If there were 2 people in the car and they asked for ketchup, I'd give them 3 so they could fight over the last one. Or if there was a group of people come through and they were really annoying, I'd bundle up all the straws they got and deliberately give them 1 too few. Which was
It's actually allowed, like.
I mean, I shouldn't have. My manager says rather I didn't, but I didn't advertise it.
You weren't like, hello, manager, I just gave him 1 too few straws.
Yeah. Advertise all the stupid things I would do.
Here is a list of what I've done today.
I got in trouble once because I used to play a game where I would take, like, you know, the little wooden stirrer sticks things for coffees?
I'm aware of those.
You could put
Hot
them on
chocolates,
people's
yeah.
hats without them noticing. And so
Yes.
I was quite well known for doing this to people.
For customers.
No, just put them on people's heads, and then they would be serving a customer, and the customer would be cracking up because they've got this stick, and they would stay on the hats really well, because they would, like, little splinters would kind of stick in the hat, and they'd stay on really well. I went and there were 5 people working on the front counter,
Yeah.
and I put a stick on each of their heads.
That's hilarious.
Then went up to each of them independently and I went, look what I've done to these guys. So they all turned around and were kind of laughing at each other, not realising they had a stick on their own head.
Oh, brilliant.
And then the manager came out, instantly looked at me and was like, this has got to stop. Suddenly...
You're like, I have only just begun.
It didn't...
Pointed to his head and he's like, no!
It had been going on for a long time. I had also been putting stirrers in his trouser pockets.
Oh,
and like,
my goodness.
one time he turned round and he had a stirrer in both pockets, in his chest pocket, on his shoulders and on his head.
What?
You
managed that?
I was stood next to him for so long that I would just...
On his shoulders?
I just kept... Yeah, you could put them on the shoulders.
How did you...
The shirts were quite thick and a little bit bristly, so the stirrers just stick to them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Honestly, if anybody out there working at McDonald's, throw a stirrer at your nearest co-worker. If it hits them on the shirt, it will stick. I promise you.
And if you do manage to do that, you're not meant to have your phone out, so of course it wouldn't be right to take a picture or video and send it to us, but please do.
Please do.
Yeah.
I had my phone so often when I wasn't supposed to.
Well, Michael will take full responsibility.
Looking back, I probably wasn't the model employee. But I did all of these stupid things. But at the same time, I really did actually give my customers good service.
Oh,
like,
no, well,
I
that's
served them as fast as I could, and I did the best job I could 99% of the time.
That's what counts, isn't it? Regardless of whether or not you find boredom in your job.
I messed with my co-workers a lot more than I ever messed with customers.
Right, yeah.
I never actually messed with a decent customer.
No.
I'd have a laugh with one or two, but
yeah,
nothing
same
major.
when I was in retail. Yeah. If you're there and you're treating the customers right, that's how it should be.
The only times I ever kind of got in trouble was just messing with my co-workers instead of working.
I'm trying to think of like some of the things that I did when I was working in office. There was this one. This wasn't messing about. This was just plain. Well, actually, it was hilarious. Coming to think of it, I was sitting in a chair. I was on a phone call to. This is when I was like, oh, there goes the chessboard.
Trying to destroy my chess set.
Literally, that's the 4th time I've done that during this afternoon.
It's because he's not sat in his usual spot. I need to give him his normal chair.
I feel very uncomfortable emotionally. I'm just flailing out and just hitting random objects. Yeah, I was on a call. This was in the business magazine, and my chair. It was this one of the swivelly office chairs. I was sitting in it, all day, and suddenly, the back of it just started. I was leaning back, and the back just started leaning back a little bit more, and I carried on going back and back. The thing was, the metal was bending and snapping, so the back of the chair was disconnecting as I was going further back and back, and I ended up laying down on the floor, still on the phone with the phone to my ear, like, yeah, that would be $1,300. I think they got pictures of it. I'll have to find them.
Still trying
if
to
I
get
can
the
find
sale.
them, I'll put them on Instagram.
After all that, still trying to just get the sale.
Yeah, 100%. I was dedicated to my job.
See, that's kind of like what we would do, because if you were in window 1, there's and it's busy, usually there's one person with a headset on taking orders and one person taking payment. And when I was there, if I was on the headset and there was another young fun person there with you, you would do everything you could to interrupt that person taking orders.
Oh, brilliant.
You'd do everything you could to just mess with them and try and stop them taking orders properly.
Yeah.
Which is why, when you've come away from McDonald's, so many times you have the wrong food. Okay? If that happens, don't blame the people that packed your food. Blame the people that took your order, because it's 99% of the time it's them.
That's what it is. And probably even if you're not doing a drive-through, and you're in McDonald's, then presumably the guys that are behind that are supposed to be putting the food together, they're messing about too.
Probably.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the quality on the mics is so bad at McDonald's. You know, when you hear someone, you drive up and you hear them go, oh, yeah. And you know roughly they're saying, can I take your order?
Yeah.
And you just kind of shout what you want.
Yeah.
The quality that they hear is even worse than that.
Right.
So you become like this translator for radio static. And you kind of understand that is a Big Mac.
Really?
Like milkshake is milkshake.
Really?
Because it's rubbish. They're absolutely awful.
I was at a double drive-through a few weeks ago, and the speaker went off. Hello, welcome to McDonald's. How can I take your order? And I was like, oh yeah, can I get the large 6-nugget meal, please? And then a voice from the one that's actually near me goes, yes, just hold on a second. And I was like, oh. Like,
you're one of them.
Other one. Oh, yeah, but it was it was the one that was slightly further away that was actually set off, and I didn't realise it sounded like it was because they're quite loud.
They are,
and it sounded like the one that was closest to me was the one that was talking. So there I was giving her orders that she wasn't ready to take. She was like,
bit of McDonald's knowledge for you people out there who struggle to order McDonald's, and I know there are a lot of you. I know there are. Don't go straight to the first window and order there. If you do that, they will hate you, and so will I.
Oh no, you have to stop at the speaker.
The amount of people that go to the first window.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Wow, I've never known anyone to do
That's not a big deal when it's totally empty, because you can still take their order and do it there. When it's busy, and you have to tell them to go round again, because it's like, no, if I take your order now, the 3 people behind you will have been waiting longer than they should have.
Yeah,
that's not fair. Then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, because then they start trying to pull you through the drive-through window.
Then they start trying to pull you through the drive, threatening to kill you.
Then they come into the store and then they actually shove you into the freezer.
Then they come into the store because you asked them to park for a porridge and try and kill you.
Yeah, and you're forced to just munch on like flakes for the rest of your life because no one knows where you are. You're in the freezer.
Oh, I ate so many flakes when I was there.
I'm going to have to try one of those McDonald's ice creams.
It should do. I mean, I
didn't know that they existed even.
It was like that was quite a fun game as well. Was trying to make the best ice cream.
Right.
Because if an order came through and there were like 4 or 5 of you on a drive-through and it had like 5 ice creams, everyone would make one.
Everyone would have a go
and be like, "This is clearly the best." The idea of the ice creams is, though, they're for really little kids, so they're meant to be way smaller than McFlurries. But by the time you're finished, it's like massive.
And they're like, why does one of us have a mountain-sized ice cream? And the other one has...
And the other one's got like a mouthful, and
like
that's
a Jack Russell poo type.
Oh.
No?
No.
No. Okay. Too far.
Too far, man.
Well,
they're not for some McDonald's, to be fair.
Oh, I have had other jobs, but it's so close to it's now almost an hour, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're just about to hit the hour mark, so I think
the hour's gone fast.
We'll call it there. But to anybody listening to this, please know how much we appreciate this and how fun we find it to make these.
Oh, we do.
And to have people listen to them.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Especially on a regular basis.
Oh my word. We find that so entertaining and so rewarding that people actually find us entertaining enough to listen to.
When we actually look at the figures and think about the individuals that are listening.
Yeah. It's like the first video we've put up has got like 250 views.
Yeah, like 250,000 views, yeah. Check it out.
It's madness. So, we'll say goodnight for this time.
Farewell.
But
Alfredo saying goodbye.
Please, feedback. Do you want more of this? Do you want us to change it up? Do you want this subject or that subject? Yeah. Whack it all on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. We really like hearing from you.
Yeah.
So I will say good night. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I've been Michael.
I've been Zak.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.